His hand moved behind my thigh, deliberate and steady, holding just above the back of my knee. I shut my eyes, not from embarrassment, but from the intensity, the pressure, the thrilling, overwhelming surge of desire I had fought so hard to suppress for weeks. He knelt on the rug before the couch, where I sat with my legs tucked beneath me, my arms pressed firmly to my sides, wary of reaching out to him, uncertain of my own restraint to draw him nearer. His thumb glided, sinking into the tender skin. I took a deep breath, my chest expanding, eyes firmly closed like a child hiding from the world. Yet, fear didn't grip me, not about him, unaware of the unfolding events. I was terrified by the depth of my need for it. Welcome back to American affairs, where the most cherished family boundaries are not merely blurred, but utterly obliterated. Today's narrative unfolds a challenging and unfiltered revelation of a forbidden longing between a sister and her younger brother, pushing the boundaries of your understanding of love, solitude, and the limits we promise never to breach. We urge listeners to proceed with caution. Let's get started. His breath lingered in the air. The sensation pressed against my thigh, warm and frayed at the edges. His mouth lingered in the air, never fully settling, as though he were in a state of anticipation or inquiry. "Just tell me to stop," he murmured, his voice a gravelly whisper. I simply couldn't, as I had no intention to. His other hand traced the curve of my hip, the touch soft and reassuring. He edged nearer, a change swept through the air, the world beyond the living room, the whisper of the wind, the subtle creak of the floorboards above, and the heavy burden of guilt I'd been shouldering for days. Everything dissolved into a deep, resonant hush. He was all I could sense. David, my mother's boyfriend. Absolutely not David. It was Max, my sibling. I never thought I would reach this point, not alongside him, not with someone I was meant to safeguard. Not with someone who once perched at my kitchen counter after school, cereal in hand, seeking my assistance with his homework. I'm Ella, and I'm 20 years young. This captivating tale, one that lingers in my thoughts, unfolded just last summer. It's a tale of a boundary I had vowed to myself and to the universe that I would never, ever breach. A boundary etched in the very foundation of family, ethics, and my self-perception. Yet, on a balmy, muggy evening in the stillness of my childhood abode, he crossed over it. Perhaps, if I'm being completely candid, I was the one who wiped it out entirely. A hidden truth set everything in motion. The thought of catching my parents off guard, appearing on their doorstep after a challenging year spent at college in California, was simply irresistible. The image of their surprised, joyful expressions and the enveloping, heartfelt hugs served as the ideal remedy for the deep loneliness and relentless academic stress that had been my unwavering companions. As I pulled my heavy suitcase across the familiar, cracked sidewalks of my small, Midwestern hometown, a smile crept onto my face. The air was saturated with the aroma of freshly mown grass and the promise of rain, evoking the soundtrack of my entire childhood. As I finally pushed open the front door of our family home, my heart raced with excitement, ready to be enveloped in warm embraces and showered with countless questions. Instead, I was greeted by an eerie, deep silence that hung in the air. The house stood silent and vacant. They were not present at the residence. As the initial sting of disappointment started to take root in my stomach, a recognizable voice broke the silence, calling my name with a blend of surprise and sheer joy. "Is that you, Ella?" My younger brother Max had just celebrated his 18th birthday. He stepped out of the kitchen, and for just a moment, my mind struggled to grasp the reality of the scene before me. The boy I had once left behind a decade ago was no longer there. A young man took his place. He had surpassed my height, his shoulders now wider. The tall, charming awkwardness of his teenage years has been effortlessly transformed into a newfound confidence that fits him like a favorite, well-loved jacket. His broad, recognizable smile remained unchanged, illuminating the whole area. "Max!" I exclaimed, letting my heavy bags fall to the ground with a resounding thud as we shared a warm, heartfelt embrace. The moment was seamless, a joyful interaction between two siblings who had longed for each other's presence. Yet a subtle awareness tugged at my thoughts, a quiet yet striking realization of his newfound maturity. The boy had vanished, a man was present. As soon as Max stepped out to join his friends, I shut the door and released a long, weary sigh. The quiet of the house enveloped me once more, but this time it brought with it a deep, comforting tranquility. At last, I found myself back in the one place on earth that felt like home, where I truly and utterly belonged. Following the arduous journey through bustling buses and hectic train stations, I yearned to wash away the dirt and weariness that clung to me like a second skin. I immediately made my way to the upstairs shower. The hot water exploded against my skin, cleansing not only the grime of my journey, but also what seemed like the deep-seated stress that had built up over the entire semester. With the pressure of impending deadlines, sleepless nights of cramming, and the unyielding competition of college life finally dissipating, a profound sense of relaxation washed over me. I allowed my shoulders to drop, exhaling a breath I hadn't realized I was holding for months. Once I was wrapped in a cozy plush towel, I quietly made my way barefoot to my childhood room, softly nudging the well-known door open. The aroma of my childhood haven, a distinctive and soothing blend of aged books, the faint remnants of vanilla candles long extinguished, and my essence enveloping me like a tender embrace. It was a glimpse into the past. The walls still held on to my old band posters. The bed was perfectly made, dressed in my beloved patterned sheets. It was as if I was transported to a different version of myself, a younger, more carefree self, free from the burdens of the anxieties that had weighed me down in recent months. As I settled into a breezy summer dress and sank onto my bed, an undeniable thought began to tug at the edges of my consciousness. The unyielding pressures of school and my part-time job have squeezed out any chance for a personal life, leaving no space for intimacy. The effortless, laid-back intimacy I had previously overlooked had been absent from my life for quite a while now. Indeed, there had been brief moments at gatherings, uncomfortable coffee meetups that led to nothing. Yet none of these experiences blossomed into something genuine, something significant. In the stillness of my dorm room, where the walls barely contained sound and my roommates were ever curious, I found little chance to relax, to bond with another, or even to engage with my own thoughts. As I reclined against the plush pillows, a thought crossed my mind. What, if anything, had I overlooked while being so fully immersed in the chaos of my academic journey? A subtle, nagging thought settled in my mind, refusing to fade away. It went beyond the simple need for companionship. The experience was a path to uncovering my true self and my deepest desires. I grabbed my phone, my thumb automatically gliding through the infinite, monotonous stream of others' flawless, carefully crafted lives. Before long, my mind wandered to deeper, more personal territories. I allowed the phone to slip from my grasp and tumble to the side. As I settled back into the pillows, my fingers gently explored my skin, moving with a sense of curiosity. A powerful, instinctive desire surged within, fueled by the fundamental human longing to reconnect, to experience something genuine, transcending all else. My fingers danced along my arms, following the graceful line of my collarbone, lightly caressing the soft, airy fabric of my summer dress. I released a trembling breath, finally granting myself the chance to genuinely feel, to reconnect, and to relax after the relentless stress I had been battling for so long. In the heart of this tranquil, solitary, and nearly meditative moment of rediscovery, a gentle knock on my bedroom door shattered the serene stillness of my thoughts. My heart raced, caught in my throat. In a moment of sheer panic, I almost tossed my phone aside. "Is that you, Ella?" From the other side, Max's voice emerged, soft and muffled. I swiftly composed myself, smoothing my dress and striving to present an air of effortless, sisterly ease as I beckoned him to enter. Max hesitated at the entrance, the door whispering its protest as he finally pushed it open, venturing into the uncharted realm of my room. It was clear from the start that a heavy burden occupied his mind. The familiar lightness he always carried, that easy grin, had vanished. He lingered for a moment, a hint of awkwardness in the air, before settling on the edge of my bed, his fingers raking through his thick, dark hair with a sense of urgency. I felt an undeniable presence, one that bore a profound and heavy significance. Max lingered in a deep silence, fidgeting restlessly, as if he were on a quest for the perfect words, the ideal moment to start. I stayed silent, allowing him the room he obviously required. Finally, he began to share his thoughts. At first, he hesitated, burdened by deep pain, but then, in a sudden wave of catharsis, he opened up about his girlfriend's story. Based on our occasional long-distance phone conversations, I had the impression that they were truly happy together, embodying that picture-perfect, youthful, carefree high school sweetheart dynamic. However, beneath the surface, everything was not as perfect as it seemed. He admitted that their conflicts were unyielding, ignited by both minor disputes and deeper, more significant concerns. He felt an undeniable truth. No matter what he did, it would never be enough for her. She would become upset over issues he was entirely unaware of, and the resulting endless arguments left him utterly drained. He confessed to still harboring feelings for her, but he was deeply unsure if he could persist on this painful, emotionally exhausting journey. The relationship, he admitted, his voice trembling with a barely contained emotion, was starting to bear down on him, threatening to shatter his spirit. As he spoke, I noticed the remarkable change he had experienced since the last time I had truly seen him. He had undeniably and permanently evolved from the boy I once playfully teased into a young, intricate man. He carried a subtle, yet striking maturity, an intense depth that had somehow escaped my notice until this moment. His shoulders now exuded a broader, more robust presence, while his striking face showcased sharper, more defined angles. He carried himself with a serene confidence, a striking and almost surprising difference from the youthful doubt that had marked my own journey to college many months prior. I took in his words, my focus split between the raw, tangible anguish in his voice and the new, jarring realization that was beginning to unfold about him. He exuded an irresistible charm, a subtle yet powerful masculinity that made it nearly impossible for me to look away. He kept talking, uncovering deeper layers of himself, exposing a level of raw vulnerability he had never shown before. He acknowledged that the idea of ending their relationship had entered his mind on several occasions, but he was unsure if he had the strength and courage to act on it. I longed to provide him with comfort, to find the right words that could ease his burdens and elevate his spirits. In that electrifying personal moment, it seemed that no words, no matter how sincere, could possibly capture the depth of the experience. They experienced a sense of emptiness, a feeling of not being enough. I chose the route that felt the most authentic and instinctual to me. I shifted nearer to him on the bed and wrapped him in a warm, sisterly embrace, providing the straightforward, heartfelt comfort I recognized he truly craved. It was more than just a hug, exchanged out of sisterly familiarity or a well-worn habit. It was genuine. It conveyed a powerful message without uttering a single word. I understood. I stood by him, and I recognized his suffering. As we lingered on the edge of my bed, my arms enveloping his trembling shoulders, a profound and dangerous tension shifted in the air around us. I'm not sure if it was the way he effortlessly melted into my embrace, his weary body fitting perfectly against mine, or if it was just the undeniable warmth that radiated from his proximity. In that moment, I became acutely aware of him. The gentle touch of his soft, dark hair against my cheek, the subtle, fresh scent of his cologne that hinted at masculinity, and the mesmerizing way his breathing gradually slowed and deepened, syncing effortlessly with my own in a captivating rhythm. The embrace stretched just a moment longer than intended. It transformed, subtly at first, from a source of comfort into something entirely different, something electric. For a brief moment, I paused, feeling my heart start to beat in a slow, heavy, and unfamiliar way. With a soft voice, barely above a whisper, I inquired, "Is this okay?" My hand, seemingly guided by an unseen force, glided from his back to his face. His skin felt incredibly soft and warm beneath my exploring fingers, and I couldn't help but trace the strong, defined line of his jaw moving down to his neck. What was intended as a simple, calming act transformed into something charged, thrilling, and risky. His body appeared to surrender further beneath my touch, leaning in just a fraction more, a silent, almost instinctive response. My mind was a tumultuous storm, ensnared in a frantic battle between my impulsive choices and the sensible, secure route I recognized I should take. A heavy, almost suffocating uncertainty settled within me, a quiet question reverberating in the shadowy corners of my thoughts. What drove my determination? What was holding me back from stepping away from this edge? It might have been the strikingly intense yet profoundly satisfying way he appeared to ground my restless soul in that one unforgettable moment we shared. It could have been the unexpected flood of emotions, a deep-seated yearning for genuine human connection that had been lying in wait, now awakened in this very moment. Regardless of what it actually was, I discovered that I was entirely, absolutely powerless to stop my own actions. The moment felt surreal, as if the very essence of choice had eluded me, leaving behind a foggy memory of when I had unwittingly embarked on this perilous, taboo journey. In that instant, a unique blend of fear and exhilaration surged through me as I took his hand, leading it softly from my shoulder to settle on my leg. It was a spontaneous, almost instinctive choice, made in that exhilarating, breathless instant before any rational hesitation could creep in. In that fleeting moment, I felt him tense, his muscles tightening under my touch, clearly and deeply caught off guard. His hand, warm and strong, settled precisely where I had intentionally, perhaps recklessly, placed it, high on my thigh. His hesitation was evident, but underneath it, I sensed a fresh, undeniable spark of curiosity, an unasked question lingering in the air. His hand exuded a searing, nearly intolerable heat that penetrated the delicate cotton of my summer dress. His touch was tentative, almost shy at first, as if he found himself in a fragile, tormenting equilibrium between the raw, masculine desire to move forward and the ingrained lifelong instinct to stay perfectly still and respectful. His fingers began to move softly, tracing delicate, almost reverent circles on the sensitive skin of my thigh, rising higher with each tender, thrilling sweep. My heart raced uncontrollably, and I felt the intense heat radiating from that one tantalizing point of contact, enveloping my entire being. Every nerve in my body buzzed with a fresh, intense awareness, responding to his touch, to him, in a way I hadn't felt in ages. We savored that solitary, suspended moment as time expanded, infinitely, flexibly, enveloping us. His hand moved gently, exploring, while I inched closer, my face now resting in the comforting, secure curve of his neck. My body appeared to possess a will of its own, responding and bending beneath his delicate touch, reacting to each subtle, cautious movement he executed. Just when the moment seemed to reach its peak intensity, the sudden creak of the front door opening downstairs broke the serene, almost sacred atmosphere of my small childhood bedroom. I recoiled instantly, as though scorched, distancing myself from him while hastily tugging down the hem of my dress in one swift, panicked motion. My heart raced, but this time it was fueled by sheer, unfiltered panic. Max appeared equally flustered and just as terrified as I was. His face turned a deep, unmistakable red as he hurriedly and awkwardly retreated to his side of the bed, creating what suddenly felt like an entire universe of safe, essential distance between us. I hardly had a moment to regain my breath before the cheerful, unsuspecting voices of my parents echoed through the house. "Is that truly you, darling Ella?" They expressed a blend of excitement, concern, and an overwhelming sense of relief, all at once. I pushed myself to rise from the bed, my legs trembling, almost unsteady, and made my way to greet them, my mind still swirling, grappling with the near miss of what had just transpired in my room with my brother. They embraced me warmly, bombarding me with countless questions about why I hadn't given them a heads up about my return. I whispered a vague excuse about wanting to surprise them, doing my utmost to maintain a sense of normalcy, to seamlessly return to the well-worn, cozy role of the devoted, affectionate daughter. As we gathered around the dinner table that evening, sharing laughter and stories from the past few months, my thoughts kept wandering back to that one electrifying, unforgettable moment. The sensation of Max's touch lingered in my mind, and I couldn't help but recall how my body had eagerly and unabashedly reacted to him. Could it be that he was pondering the same thing? The remainder of the evening unfolded in a disorienting, nearly surreal haze. I went through all the usual routines, chatting, laughing, unpacking my suitcase, yet my thoughts were drifting far away. My mind relentlessly returned to the events that unfolded upstairs with Max. The memory was etched in my mind, the warmth of his hand radiating through me, the surprising eagerness of my own body responding with a life of its own, and the palpable, almost thrilling electricity that charged the air between us. The experience was so fresh, so strikingly vibrant, that it clung to me, resisting all my efforts to let it go. Despite finally settling into bed that night, sleep eluded me. I tossed and turned for hours, my mind racing, replaying every moment repeatedly, the way he looked at me just before we parted, the soft, almost tentative touch of his hand on my skin, the intoxicating thrill of being so close to him, so dangerously close. I found myself pondering what thoughts now filled his mind. Did it shake him to his core like it did for me? The next day unfolded with even greater challenges, steeped in a palpable, unspoken tension. The house, once my ultimate sanctuary and safe haven, now resembled a minefield of unspoken, forbidden emotions. Seeing Max throughout the day, bumping into him in the cramped hallway, sharing a meal at the breakfast table, felt nearly unbearable. It wasn't exactly uncomfortable. Not in any blatant sense, yet it carried a unique quality, a sense of a shared perilous secret that now seemed to resonate almost tangibly between us. Both of us were keenly aware of the events that had almost unfolded in my bedroom the day before, yet we found ourselves utterly at a loss for how to approach it. We were deeply uncertain about how to manage our ordinary interactions in this new, precarious, and unspoken reality. I caught myself sneaking quick, almost compulsive looks at him, taking in all the subtle, fresh details that had once completely eluded my attention. The taut tension in his chiseled jawline as he plunged into profound thought, the soft, youthful fall of his dark hair over his brow, the fluid, graceful confidence in his movements now. Every time our paths crossed, my heart quickened, and I found myself irresistibly drawn to dissecting every little moment we shared. Did he notice the fresh, intense way I was now looking at him? Did he feel the same forbidden, intoxicating pull that now ensnares me so completely, so powerfully? Or was he merely attempting to erase it all, to move forward as if nothing truly meaningful had transpired between us? No matter how hard I tried to divert my attention, nothing seemed effective. With my parents preoccupied with their own activities throughout the day, I found myself with an abundance of time to ponder. I found myself trapped in that one electrifying moment in my room, replaying it endlessly, my mind a thrilling yet tormenting arena of possibilities. Imagine if the front door had remained closed just a moment longer. Imagine the possibilities if we had kept going. The questions and possibilities stretched infinitely before me, fueling a restlessness that deepened my yearning for an unnamed desire. That evening, my dad walked into the living room where I was sitting, mindlessly scrolling on my phone. He expressed his regrets, explaining that he and my mom needed to step out for the evening to handle some pressing errands for a dear friend. He expressed his regret about leaving me alone once more, particularly since I had just returned home. I brushed it off, assuring him it was absolutely fine and that I had more than enough to keep myself occupied. Once they departed, an unsettling silence enveloped the house. Once again, it was just Max and me, secluded in the expansive, quiet house. This time, the deep silence magnified every subtle sound. The gentle creak of the aged floorboards, the palpable rhythm of my anxious heart echoing in the stillness. I attempted to concentrate on various distractions, reading, watching TV, but my relentless thoughts kept circling back to him, back to that pivotal moment. The quiet of the house amplified my thoughts, allowing my mind to drift back to the sensation of his hand on my leg and the intensity of our closeness in that moment. The exact moment the idea took root in my mind remains a mystery, a small, insidious seed that proved remarkably persistent. Once it settled in, it became utterly impossible to overlook. I made every effort to talk myself out of it, to reason with my thoughts, to internally shout about how deeply, how unfathomably wrong, how entirely, utterly insane it all was. Yet, the pull I felt towards him was simply too strong, too powerful to resist. The recollection of yesterday lingered, sharp and intense, igniting an unquenchable curiosity about the potential outcomes if I chose to let go this time. It was irresistibly, undeniably too alluring. The hour was late, well beyond midnight, when I ultimately and decisively reached my conclusion. The house was shrouded in darkness, enveloped in an eerie silence. The soft, steady, and almost rhythmic sound of Max's breathing drifted through the thin walls, creating a gentle backdrop to the quietude around me. My heart raced with a frantic, wild rhythm as I stealthily approached his room, my bare feet gliding silently over the cool, familiar hardwood floor. With a soft, quiet motion, I nudged his door open, and my eyes landed on him. He lay sprawled on his side, his back facing me. He appeared utterly serene, his breaths gentle and rhythmic in the warm, soothing light of his cozy nightlight. In a lingering pause, I found myself frozen, my fingers resting on the cool brass doorknob, observing him in slumber, weighing the reality of my next move. Yet, as if guided by an unseen force, my body began to move once more, my feet gliding silently and with intent toward his bed. Before I could even entertain the thought of retreating for good, I eased myself in beside him, taking great care not to disturb his slumber initially. The worn mattress sighed under my weight, while the warm, inviting aura of his proximity wrapped around me, a soothing yet perilously thrilling reminder of our intimate, unvoiced connection. At first, I lay there, completely still, in sync with the steady, comforting rhythm of his breath, feeling the soft rise and fall of his chest next to me. As time dragged on and the minutes slipped away, I felt my breath quickening, becoming almost painfully rapid. Drawn by an irresistible force, I reached out to him, my fingertips grazing his warm arm with a delicate touch, as if to sense the electric tension in the air, to explore the limits of this uncharted, tantalizing realm. Before long, he began to stir, his breathing shifting and quickening as he slowly and groggily emerged from sleep. He rolled onto his back, his eyes fluttering open in a dazed confusion, gradually coming to realize my presence beside him in his bed. His expression was a mix of profound surprise and almost comical disbelief, with his eyes widening as he absorbed the strange, unbelievable situation. I refused to grant him the chance to express any of his expected questions or concerns. I grasped his hand, mirroring the gesture from the day before in my own space, and guided it purposefully to my leg. He paused for a moment, his muscles tensing, becoming solid under my touch. With a gentle, barely noticeable sigh, he eased into a state of quiet acceptance, allowing me to take the lead, to steer him forward. The moments that followed emerged in a blurred, surreal manner. Every sense was finely tuned to the world around me, capturing each small detail: the gentle warmth of his hand against my skin, the tentative movement of his fingers that gradually transformed into a newfound confidence as he grew more at ease, more daring. My heart raced, my skin tingled, and I found myself completely enveloped in the deep, intense intimacy of the moment. The experience was marked by a raw, almost excruciating vulnerability, an unvoiced honesty that rendered everything profoundly and perilously authentic. It may not have been flawless, refined, or filled with romance, but that was of no consequence whatsoever. The essence lay in our connection, an almost telepathic understanding that transcended words as our bodies began to move in harmony, embracing a new, unspoken, and forbidden rhythm. In an instinctive motion, I leaned into him, effortlessly eliminating the last sliver of distance that separated us, as if time had slowed to a crawl. My hand naturally found its way to his strong shoulder, and before he could respond or process what was happening, I leaned in and kissed him. A powerful moment of deep connection unfolded between us, laden with countless unvoiced yet profoundly felt emotions. Then I hesitated, uncertain of my next words or actions. This kiss was free from any uncertainty or lingering doubt. It was bold, overflowing with the raw, intense energy that had been building between us for days. I gently urged him, my hands finding their place on his strong, broad shoulders, guiding him smoothly onto his back. He reclined beneath me, a willing and eager participant in this moment. I felt the delicate yet profound shift in his body as he sank into the plush mattress, his hands instinctively reaching for my waist. I took my place above him, straddling his firm, toned hips. The intense, visceral experience of being present, so closely and profoundly elevated above him, with every inch of our bodies now so intimately and entirely connected, was nearly almost overwhelmingly powerful. The kiss intensified, transforming into a slower, more purposeful and intentional embrace. I felt his hands tighten around my waist, a silent yet urgent sign of his own battle to find stability, as if the overwhelming gravity of the moment was nearly too heavy for him to endure as well. My hands glided up to his face, framing it perfectly, my thumbs softly and tenderly caressing the light, boyish scruff along his strong jawline. I tilted my head, refining the angle of our intense, probing kiss as his lips gently parted beneath mine. The slightest, seemingly trivial movement ignited a fierce electric thrill that coursed through my spine, prompting me to lean in closer, allowing my body to meld entirely against his. I was entirely in command now, establishing the tempo, directing the flow, and it was an exhilarating, almost perilous thrill to embrace, to harness that level of pure, undeniable power. His hands, I observed, started to explore, smoothly traveling up my back and then down to my thighs, yet there was an absence of urgency, an absence of aggression in his touch. It was as if he was wholeheartedly entrusting me to take charge, surrendering his complete faith in me, which only fueled my growing, nearly unquenchable desire for him. As I sat above him, an overwhelming sense of belonging washed over me, a feeling so deep it seemed to echo the very essence of fate. In that fleeting, forbidden moment, it felt as though my long-suppressed desires had finally found their rightful place. As the oppressive heat in the dim, cramped space escalated and our secret, tantalizing dream teetered on the brink of transformation into an undeniable truth, the weight of harsh reality descended upon us like an unyielding brick wall. As I leaned in and pressed my lips to his again, my thoughts and desires surged to the forefront. This was the defining moment. My body pulsed with a desire so profound, so achingly intense, it felt nearly overwhelming. His presence beneath me was strikingly palpable, his youthful, firm body responding intensely to each of my subtle, intentional movements. I paused for a moment, my voice dropping to a low, husky whisper, and asked, "Do you have anything?" The look on his face, captured in that fleeting, timeless instant, was nothing short of extraordinary. At first, a bewildering and somewhat humorous whirlwind of confusion enveloped him as he grappled, lost in his fervent haze, to understand my point. In that moment, the haze of confusion began to lift, revealing a startling and unsettling clarity of understanding. He flashed a sheepish, almost innocent smile, his attractive cheeks taking on the softest, most charming hue of red in the gentle glow from the hallway. "No," he said, his voice barely rising above a whisper. I didn't consider it. It was hard to wrap my head around it. At 18, with a girlfriend by his side, he finds himself in a bedroom devoid of any condoms. I paused, staring at him, as a bizarre blend of deep disbelief and sheer, unfiltered frustration surged through me. "Come on, Max," I urged, a frustrated laugh slipping from my lips, almost breathless. "How is it possible that you have nothing?" He attempted to justify his actions, mumbling something unclear about not anticipating this turn of events tonight, a response that carried an endearing, youthful quality that was utterly, completely, maddeningly frustrating. "Seriously, Max." I leaned my head against his warm chest for a moment, desperately trying to figure out my next move. I simply couldn't bring myself to quit. I was unable to hold back. A sudden wave of longing washed over me, and I recognized just how deeply I craved him, more than I ever thought possible. In that moment, I made the decision to change direction. If he wasn't ready or prepared in that specific manner, that's perfectly okay. I would ensure with every ounce of my being that he carried the memory of this night, our night, throughout his entire young and impressionable life. I glided down slightly, my body brushing against his in a tantalizing manner as I shifted from his hips to his thighs. The moment his breath caught in his throat, while I repositioned myself, ignited a renewed sense of confidence and power within me. As I settled between his strong, expectant legs, I looked up at him, my fingers gently, playfully brushing against his knees, then smoothly, intentionally traveling up the firm, taut lines of his inner thighs. His entire body tensed under my touch, his breath catching again, and I could feel his frantic effort to hold on to a shred of control. Yet his youthful, agile form was unmistakably showcasing the undeniable, intensifying reality of his inner conflict. His fingers curled tightly around the soft cotton bedsheets, his thighs subtly tensing under my touch, while his broad chest rose and fell in a rhythm that was both deep and increasingly, delightfully unpredictable. A smile crept onto my lips as I kissed him once more, this time lower, sensing the electric tension in his body intensify with each small, intentional gesture I made. His body was remarkably and exquisitely responsive, and I adored it. I relished the knowledge that as his older sister, I had the ability to evoke such intense, involuntary responses from him simply by being near and touching him just right. As I moved forward, I sensed him starting to unwind, his rigid form slowly yielding to the plush mattress, ultimately letting go of the final remnants of tension that had held him so firmly. In an instant, he let out a soft, nearly undetectable groan that resonated with a profound satisfaction, sending a new surge of intense, nearly overwhelming heat coursing through my body. I paused to look up at him again, with his head reclined against the pillows, his lips softly parted, and his eyes tightly shut. He fully embraced the overwhelming, intoxicating experience, surrendering completely to the moment. He looked absolutely stunning in that moment, entirely, completely bare, and so beautifully, so wonderfully unfolding. It fueled my desire to continue, to challenge him more, to lead him to an uncharted territory he had never experienced before. As it came to a close, I was enveloped in a peculiar yet profound blend of intense emotions. The thrill may have faded, yet the vibrant, tingling energy in my chest, in my very bones, remained, a persistent, unmistakable pulse. I gradually rose from the bed, feeling the full, overwhelming, exhilarating weight of our shared circumstances, of our transgression, finally and completely settling in. A small yet vital part of me was entirely caught up in the overwhelming, intoxicating intensity of it all, in the vivid, undeniable sensation of life that had surged through me just moments earlier. As I lingered in the deep, weighty silence of his dimly lit room, a chilling sense of uncertainty started to seep in. I took one last glance at him, still lounging on the bed, his broad chest rising and falling softly as he gradually caught his breath. He appeared utterly tranquil, radiating a profound sense of satisfaction. I cleared my throat, striving to dispel the lingering electric tension in the air. "So," I said, doing my utmost to appear relaxed and indifferent, even though my thoughts were a tumultuous whirlwind. You're not a virgin, correct?" He blinked awake at my sudden, almost detached question, gazing up at me with a peculiar blend of drowsy bewilderment and emerging intrigue. He nodded, exuding a surprising certainty that was both unwavering and compelling. "No," he replied softly, "I'm not." I raised an eyebrow, studying him closely. A peculiar, unsettling wave of disbelief, tinged with a hint of disappointment, swept over me. For reasons I can't quite understand, I suddenly found myself completely at a loss for words. It struck me suddenly that I had crafted an intriguing and potent narrative within my mind, a clandestine tale where I stood as the sole, assured architect, the seasoned, mature woman, skillfully and generously leading him through an entirely new and uncharted realm. However, this fresh, unforeseen turn of events, this straightforward, irrefutable truth, has a way of complicating everything, rendering it all distinct. With a calculated, nearly indifferent movement, I left his room, my steps steady and almost formal, as I urgently tried to gather my disordered, tumultuous thoughts. I leaned my back against the cool, sturdy wall of the hallway, squeezing my eyes shut as I fought with all my strength to manage the sudden, intense wave of tension, confusion, and an unexpected, unwelcome disappointment flooding through me. The guilt and shame gnawed at me, an overwhelming and almost intolerable feeling settling deep within my core. Yet the remainder of my being, all those long, silent facets, surged with an exhilarating, thrilling, and utterly vibrant sense of life. I couldn't deny, even to myself, that a substantial part of me, a large, undeniable part, yearned so intensely to experience that feeling once more and again. In the stillness of the night, I stood there, enveloped in darkness, grappling with the same elusive question that echoed in my mind again and again. Is this genuinely the best path forward for me, for us? I realized I was genuinely and profoundly eager to discover. With a renewed sense of determination, I couldn't help but believe that I wasn't alone in facing this strange, confusing, yet undeniably powerful emotion. Is it possible for me to? I silently asked the heavy, suffocating shadows of my childhood home, longing for a hint of clarity, a sense of forgiveness, from anyone or anything that could provide even a sliver of understanding, a moment of tranquility. Video Deep Research Framework.